Hello, it's Jackie Schomburg-Minen. Today I'm going to be doing another grid journaling exercise. This one will be with black and white. I chose to do a monochrome because it is a nice way to simplify things. I chose to use black and white and gray just because I did. No other reason. Um, Black and white for me is very attractive because it's such high contrast. So the black is as far away from white as you can get. And obviously there are many shades of gray in the middle. But I really love it because it looks very striking. There's very little subtle about it, especially if you're not using a ton of gray. So I started off using my pen, and I use Uniball pens. I've been using them, gosh, probably for 20 years at this point. So I really like them. They are supposedly waterproof after they set. It does take a little bit of time for them to set. So if you're writing a letter or a card, you have to wait before you close the card up. Otherwise, it will mark on the other side. I learn that every time I send a card, which luckily isn't very often. I'm generally terrible with cards. However, I'm using my Neocolor crayons. This is a light gray. Now, this is a timed session. This is one of the Brave Art and Creative Wellness workshops. I decided to video this art making session. So I think I was working with about 40 minutes when I did this, start to finish. So in this workshop, the goal is not to finish. The goal is to enjoy the process and kind of follow where the art takes you. So follow the shapes that feel good. Just totally rely on your intuition and trust yourself in your decisions and just go for it. That said, I am always thinking about where do I want to put things. You could call it composition choices. You can call it just personal preference. You can call it, I don't know, call it whatever you want. But part of using my intuition is making those decisions. So with this, you can see I'm just trying to put the gray in different spaces. A lot of the pen marks I made turned into shapes that I wanted to color in, which isn't always the case, but sometimes it was. I'm getting some collage papers together, checking out what I've got. This is tissue paper, so you'll see when I glue this in, the background will become much more sheer and translucent. Just some random lines to randomizing things like this helps me a lot. That middle one on the left reminds me a little bit of a dog or some sort of animal. So could I go in here and mark these same thick lines with a thick marker? Absolutely. But I probably would never consciously choose these, maybe just the small stripes on the right side. But collaging parts of lines gives me a better chance to have random marks because I'm, cutting them different ways, tearing them different ways, not anticipating trying to tear out a specific shape. So part of the reason that the collage appeals to me is just because it helps me randomize. Same thing when I work on a large sheet of paper that's divided up with tape. I'll often close my eyes when I do my line work so that I can't see exactly where I'm drawing. I notice otherwise I tend to do the same shapes again and again and again. Nothing wrong with that, but when I want to do new shapes or come at it from a different perspective, those are some tricks I use to vary my shapes more often. I'm just using gloss medium to affix the tissue paper to my sketchbook. I don't know why I'm so attached to this little scrap, but I was. So these scraps that I'm cutting out now are actually my wedding vows. I was thinking of something to do for my husband for his birthday, which happens to be today, when you're watching this on Sunday. Um, and while I was thinking about doing a image transfer, so I printed it out and I used a font that was my handwriting, which I still think is pretty cool. And I had to print it out backwards, a mirror image, so that I could glue it down, face down on the wood panel, and then take off the paper and, leave the words then on there. It is a sheer image transfer. So this is one of the outtakes where I printed it forward, not mirror image. And because I had them, I thought, well, it's black and white. I'll use these. And if you didn't know they were words, right, just as a different pattern, it's kind of like light, messy stripes, right? The text is lined up very neatly, much neater than my actual handwriting. And so from a design perspective, it does add something different that's not already in the squares. And it was kind of fun to have something meaningful in this collage. I'm not sure why I kept making things smaller and smaller. Maybe just to vary the size and shape of the collage pieces I was using. I do like this teeny tiny piece I'm putting on right now. It's adorable. So you can see that I spent a lot of time with the light gray, which did not give me a whole lot of impact. For me personally, it's not a lot of contrast, I should say. The impact is whatever it is, but didn't give me a lot of contrast. I decided I would add some high flow golden carbon black paint, so that this is, you can clearly see that this has enough contrast. It's a lot like working with ink. It's just very, very black and very thin. And because this is process art, my focus really is just seeing what I can do. I'm looking specifically to try to make different marks in each square, or different shapes. Smearing it with a wipe or a wet paper towel just to make sure that it's not all a super heavy application. As I pull some of the paint away, right, it's varying levels of opacity, which covers up some of the words and also just covers up some of the whiteness in a less harsh way. The brush I was using is not a very fine, nice detail brush, which I tend to seek these out when I'm trying to loosen up, so that I can't make it perfect. It's not going to be perfect in tiny spots. There's not going to be a lot of precision. I can make it smaller, right? So it's smaller than a bigger brush, but the bristles on the end don't line up super well, so it's kind of a little clunky around the finer detail parts. Which then, when I was doing that, it kind of encouraged me to smear some of the paint and thin it out in some areas just because it wasn't going to be a perfect little detail anyway. When you want to loosen up your art, it's very helpful to use less precise things. Some of you know of my favorite brush. That's my ridiculous brush that I taped to a tree branch, and I hold it at the end of the tree branch so that it, I don't know, it's 18 inches long, 12 to 18 inches long. But when I hold it at the bottom of that branch and the paintbrush is way on the other side, I don't have a ton of control over the paintbrush. Plus, from years of abuse at this point, the brush that it's stuck to, or the brush that is stuck to the branch, is also ridiculously like crippled somehow. It's kinked and it's just bent at like a 90-degree angle from sitting in my water for too long. So it makes very unique marks, and I cannot do anything precise. This is how everything turned out. You can see I tried to make each square unique and different by making different marks in it in different places. When you like to lighten up your work and loosen up, how do you like to do it? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to have you subscribe. It really helps the algorithm send my videos to more people. And thank you to my already wonderful subscribers. Bye.